What is your name and how long have you lived in Austin?
Monica Ann Guzman, and except for 1 year, my entire life. I have seen this city grow and change. Ooh. Well, I remember things like when Mopac, the expansion bridge, I remember as a child when it didn't exist. I remember in my family, me and 3 siblings only, being taken out there as a child when there was just this big gap. You know, you'd stare out and you don't want to walk too far, you'd be over the edge, you know, before it existed. So I remember what it was like before and after. Going along Steck Avenue and having to stop and wait for the train to go by before they made changes so that you could go underneath. I remember those kind of changes. The house that I grew up in, it was all pasture field just north of there. Now that was considered northwest Austin. Now it's probably more north central, but it'll always be northwest Austin to me, and that's over in the Burnett Road 183 area. And I guess as I was in like high school, it was growing. I didn't pay that much attention. I mean, what teenager does? But over the years, I mean, I've just seen the urban sprawl. I mean, it's growing and growing, and it's like they incorporate the smaller areas. Pflugerville becomes part of Austin, essentially. It might as well be Austin. It's like, when is Round Rock going to become a part of Austin? When is Kyle going to become part of Austin? Buda. I once remember it being referred to as like the little Big Apple or something like that, and I didn't like that. It's like, I don't want a concrete jungle. This is my hometown. I think it's important, I know it's important for the city to preserve older neighborhoods, traditional neighborhoods, such as East Austin. Actually, at this point, it's imperative because at one time, it didn't exist east of the interstate. Communities, the Latino communities, the black communities used to exist farther west. But as Austin was growing in the early 20th century and the more affluent societies came in, they got pushed to the south. Then they got pushed to the east. Present-day Clarksville, that used to be the black community. Now you don't see them there. What's predominantly there is a homogeneous, you know, fairly well-to-do white community. Where's the black community? Majority probably, I don't know the percentage. I'm not up on my stats right now. But you're going to find it east, southeast, northeast. They don't have the money. It's, you know, that the schools don't have the money. They don't have the resources. That's not right. The Latino community, when they got pushed south, it is where the Mexican American Cultural Center now stands. And when they got pushed to the east, it was a warehouse where they used to, I think they used to hang out. I found out about it recently. And I'm glad they did the MAC. That's the short term for it. And to at least give them a place. The unfortunate thing is not all of the Latino community found out about it. There's still no sign for it on the interstate. So unless you're in the know, they don't know about it, and that's unfortunate. But at least there's some preservation, if you will, you know, some link to their community, to their history. But when they're pushed to the east, now you've got the big developers coming in, the gentrification, regentrification, whatever name you want to put on it. It smells just as bad. It's big money, big developers. They go meet up with city council. They post their meetings in places that are hard to find, make all these plans, come in, rebuild, and then property values go up and people get pushed out. They can't afford to live there anymore because they can't pay the rent. They can't pay the mortgage. Because their taxes have gone up. And they're forced out again. That's not right. They've lived here for generations. Houses are owned and passed down generation to generation. That's what needs to be preserved. Sure, they need to shore up the area. That's what the city needs to do, and they need to involve that community in the conversation when it's time to rebuild. They need to make sure that it's rebuilt for them, not for the money that's coming in. That's why it's imperative to preserve it. The value people, the community at large, is able to receive from preserving those communities, the traditional communities, is they learn from the people that are there and the communities that came before them. It's a living history lesson. Do I consider myself a preservationist? I never thought about that. I guess in the strict term, you know, as in like what y'all do, no, I never thought I did, but I guess in terms of traditions, like family traditions, ancestral traditions, excuse me, yes, I try to, more because of my own personal family. What happened when I was growing up, my mother is from South Texas. She grew up at a time that you speak Spanish in school, you got your hand smacked with a ruler. You know, that was the time that those kind of things happened. So when she came up here to Texas, started her family, she didn't want us to have to go through that. So she didn't force us to learn about our culture, didn't make it a big deal to learn about Spanish, and that was unfortunately a disservice to us. And she didn't mean anything bad by it. It was just, you know, circumstances of the times that she grew up in. So me and my brothers and sisters who have children, we did our best to, or have done our best to reverse that with our own children. Make sure they learn about their own culture. And what has kept us connected was when her parents, while they were still alive, knowing about certain traditions that at least our family did, things like tamales at Christmas time, buñuelos on New Year's Eve, speaking Spanish with them. They didn't speak much English anyway. And just learning more about it. You know, even if it was just little simple things like that. And that's important, I mean, because a lot of people, especially in this state, what's unfortunate is the political error, the student board, school board, they are making a big deal and have recently that the Latino community didn't make a contribution historically, and that's wrong. They did make a big contribution to this state and in this city. And preserving communities, preserving historical areas will show that. That is what is needed. That's why it's so important to do that, not only for the Latinos, but for the blacks, for any cultural community.